The night was very cold, colder than most nights in the city. Snow fell slowly from the dark sky, covering the bright streets with white silence. Tall buildings shined with colorful lights, and many aliens walked quickly, trying to stay warm. But in one quiet corner, away from the lights, something was different. A small alien girl sat alone on the frozen ground. She was thin and weak, her small body shaking from the cold wind. Her skin had a soft blue glow, but tonight it looked pale and tired. Her clothes were old and torn, not enough to protect her. From the cold, she pulled her knees close to her chest and tried to stay warm. Her eyes were filled with tears, but she tried not to cry loudly. People walked past her again and again. Some looked at her for a moment, then quickly looked away. Some whispered to each other, their voices full of judgment. Others did not even notice her at all. She is still here. One alien said quietly, "Why does she not leave?" Another replied, "She is one of those rejected ones." A third voice said coldly. The girl heard everything. She always heard everything. Her small hands tightened as she looked down at the ground. She did not want to cry, but tears slowly rolled down her cheeks. "I will not cry," she whispered to herself. "I am strong. I am not weak." But her voice was soft and broken. A strong wind passed through the street, making her shiver harder. She had not eaten all day. Her stomach hurt, but she stayed quiet. A tall guard walked toward her, his steps heavy and serious. He stopped in front of her and looked down with cold eyes. "You cannot stay here," he said firmly. "This place is not for you." The girl looked up slowly, fear in her eyes. I have nowhere else to go," she said in a small voice. The guard frowned, clearly annoyed. "That is not my problem," he replied. "Move before I make you." The girl lowered her head again. She did not move. The guard stared at her for a few seconds, then shook his head and walked away. To him, she was not important. The girl hugged herself tighter, trying to stop her shaking. Her body felt colder with every passing minute. Time passed slowly. The crowd became thinner, and the night became quieter. She looked at the ground and remembered something. Many doors. Many faces, many voices. No, too weak, not useful. She is a burden. Each memory hurt her more than the cold. She closed her eyes and tried to sleep. Maybe if she slept, she would not feel the pain. But the cold did not let her rest. A few moments later, she heard footsteps again. Slow. Calm. Different. She thought it was another guard. She did not look up. The footsteps stopped right in front of her, but no harsh voice came. Instead, there was silence. The girl slowly opened her eyes and looked up. A human stood in front of her. He looked different from everyone else. His clothes were simple, and his face was calm. His eyes were not cold, not judging. They were kind. The girl quickly looked down again, scared. She had heard stories about humans. Some said they were strange. Some said they were dangerous. The human did not speak right away. He simply stood there, watching her quietly. Then, slowly, he bent down and sat near her. Not too close, not too far. The girl was confused. No one ever sat beside her before. She waited for him to leave, but he did not move. The cold wind continued to blow. Snow landed softly on both of them. The human looked at her small shaking hands, then at her tear-filled eyes. He did not look away. For the first time, someone did not ignore her. The girl felt something strange in her chest, something she did not understand, hope or fear. She did not know then. After a long silence, the human spoke in a soft and gentle voice. "What is your name?" The girl froze. Her heart stopped for a moment. No one had ever asked her that before. Not once. She slowly lifted her head, her eyes wide with shock. Snow fell quietly around them, and the cold night held its breath. The girl did not answer. She just stared at the human with wide, confused eyes. Her lips moved a little, but no sound came out. It felt strange to hear such a simple question, a question no one had ever asked her before. "What is your name?" The words stayed in her mind, repeating again and again. She slowly looked away. her small hands shaking. She did not know what to do. The human did not rush her. He did not repeat the question. He simply waited. Calm and patient, the cold wind blew between them. Snow continued to fall. After a few seconds, the human reached into his coat. The girl flinched slightly, scared of what he might do, but he only pulled out a small piece of food. Warm and fresh, still giving off a soft smell. He placed it gently on the ground between them, not forcing it into her hands. The girl looked at the food. Her stomach tightened in pain. She had not eaten for a long time. Her body needed it badly, but she did not move. Her eyes moved from the food to the human. Suspicion and fear filled her face. Why? She whispered softly, her voice almost lost in the wind. The human heard her. Why what? He asked gently. Why, give me this? She asked, her voice shaking. The human looked at her for a moment, then gave a simple answer. Because you are hungry. The girl blinked slowly. That answer was too simple. She had heard many reasons before. Reasons to reject her. Reasons to push her away. But never a reason to help. She looked back at the food. Her hunger was stronger now. Slowly, carefully, she reached out. Her fingers touched the food. She paused again, as if waiting for something bad to happen. But nothing happened. The human did not move. He did not stop her. The girl quickly pulled the food closer and held it tightly, as if someone might take it away. Then she took a small bite. Her eyes widened slightly. The warmth spread through her body. She ate slowly at first, then faster, unable to stop herself. Tears formed again in her eyes. But this time, they were different. The human watched quietly, a soft expression on his face. Around them, a few aliens noticed what was happening. Look at that, one said. A human feeding her? Another replied. That is strange. A third voice added. Some shook their heads. Some looked confused. But no one came closer. The girl finished the food and held the empty piece in her hands. She looked down at it. Thank you, she whispered. Very softly, the human nodded slightly. You are welcome, he said. Silence returned between them. But it was not the same silence as before. It felt lighter. The girl slowly lifted her head again. Her eyes met his for a brief moment. Then she quickly looked away again. What is your name? The human asked once more, his voice still calm and kind. The girl stayed quiet. Her heart beat faster. Memories began to return. Bright rooms, cold faces, voices full of judgment. She is too weak. She cannot survive. She is not worth it. One by one, families had looked at her and turned away. Some did not even let her speak. Others laughed softly, as if she was nothing. The girl's hands tightened again, her body shaking. She started, but her voice broke. She lowered her head again. I do not want to say, she whispered. The human did not look surprised. He simply nodded. That is okay, he said gently. You do not have to. The girl looked up again, confused. Not have to? She repeated softly. Yes, the human said. You can tell me when you are ready. The girl stared at him, trying to understand his words. No one had ever given her a choice before. For the first time she felt something new, a small, warm feeling inside her chest. She did not know what it was. The wind became softer. The snow continued to fall quietly. Minutes passed. Then finally, very slowly, the girl opened her mouth again. Her voice was weak, almost like a whisper carried by the cold air. Lyra, she said. The human smiled slightly. Lyra, he repeated. The girl's eyes widened. He said her name. He did not reject it. He did not ignore it. He accepted it. For the first time in her life, her name did not feel empty. But before she could say anything more, heavy footsteps echoed from the distance. The girl froze. She knew those sounds, and fear returned to her eyes. The heavy footsteps came closer. Each step echoed through the cold street. Lyra's body became stiff. Her small hands trembled again. She knew those sounds too well, guards. Her breathing became faster. Her eyes filled with fear once more. They found me, she whispered, her voice shaking. The human looked in the direction of the sound. His face remained calm. Stay here, he said softly. But he did not move away. Lyra looked at him in surprise. Go. They will see you, she said quickly. You should not be here. The human glanced at her. And leave you alone? He asked quietly. Lyra lowered her gaze. That is how it always is, she replied. The footsteps grew louder soon. 2 tall guards appeared from the corner. Their sharp eyes quickly found Lyra, then moved to the human sitting beside her. They stopped in front of them. Their expressions turned serious. You again, one guard said, looking at Lyra with annoyance. We told you to leave. Lyra pulled her knees closer. Her voice disappeared. Then the guard looked at the human. His eyes narrowed slightly. You, he said. This does not concern you. The human did not stand. He remained seated beside Lyra. I know, he replied calmly. The guards exchanged a look, confused by his response. Then leave, the second guard said firmly. She is not allowed here. The cold wind passed between them. Snow fell quietly on the ground. The human looked at Lyra for a brief moment, then back at the guards. She is just sitting, he said. She is not causing trouble. That is not the point, the first guard replied. She has no place in this city. Lyra closed her eyes tightly. The words hurt, even though she had heard them many times before. She belongs nowhere, the second guard added coldly. The human's expression changed slightly, not anger, but something deeper. He stood up slowly, now facing the guards directly. And who decided that? He asked. The guards looked surprised. No one usually questioned them. That is not your concern, the first guard said sharply. She is rejected. Lyra's hands tightened. Her head lowered even more. Rejected. That word followed her everywhere. The human glanced back at her. He could see the pain on her face. Then he turned back to the guards. Rejected does not mean she should freeze out here, he said, his voice still calm, but stronger now. The guards frowned. You do not understand, the second guard said. She is weak, useless, a burden. The human shook his head slightly. No, he said quietly. You just chose not to understand her. The guards grew impatient. This is your last warning, one of them said. Leave now. Silence filled the space for a moment. Lyra slowly opened her eyes. She looked at the human. She expected him to walk away, just like everyone else always did. Her heart prepared for it, but the human did not move. Instead, he took a small step closer to her, standing between her and the guards. Then he spoke. Then I will stay. The words were simple, but they felt powerful. Lyra's eyes widened in shock. Her breath stopped for a moment. The guards looked at him, confused and slightly angry. You are making a mistake, one said. Maybe, the human replied. But I am not leaving her alone. The wind blew stronger for a moment, as if the night itself reacted to his words. The guards stared at him for a few seconds, trying to understand his decision. Finally, one of them sighed. Do what you want, he said, but do not cause problems. They turned and walked away, their footsteps slowly fading into the fighting distance. Silence returned once again. Lyra remained frozen in place, her mind unable to process what just happened. She slowly looked up at the human. You stayed, she said softly. The human sat down beside her again. Yes, he answered. Simply, why? She asked, her voice full of confusion. The human looked at the falling snow, then back at her. Because you should not be alone, he said. Lyra stared at him. Her heart felt heavy and light at the same time. She did not understand this feeling, this strange warmth inside her chest. She had never felt it before. The cold night no longer felt the same. For the first time, she was not completely alone. But even then, a small voice inside her whispered, what if he leaves too? Lyra lowered her gaze again, fears slowly returning. Trust was not easy, not for someone who had been left behind so many times. The human noticed her silence, but he did not ask more questions. He simply stayed there, beside her, and in that quiet moment, Lyra began to wonder if maybe, just maybe, this time could be different. The night grew quieter as the guards disappeared. The cold air still moved through the empty street. Lyra sat still, her eyes fixed on the ground. Her thoughts were loud even in the silence. The human remained beside her, calm and patient. He did not ask more questions. He did not rush her. After some time, he spoke softly. "You cannot stay here all night," he said. Lyra did not respond at first. She was used to staying outside. Cold streets were more familiar than warm places. "I am fine," she whispered, even though her body was still shaking. The human looked at her carefully. "No, you are not," he said gently. Lyra stayed quiet. She did not argue. The human stood up slowly and looked around. The streets were almost empty now. "There's a place nearby," he said. "It is small, but it is warm." Lyra's eyes moved slightly. Warm, that word felt distant to her. "I cannot go with you," she said quickly, fear returning to her voice. The human tilted his head slightly. "Why?" he asked. Lyra hesitated. "They will not allow it," she said, "and people do not want me near." The human gave a small nod. "I see," he said. For a moment, there was silence again. Then he added, "But I am asking you, not them." Lyra looked up at him, surprised. His words felt different. No one had ever asked her what she wanted before. Her heart began to beat faster. She started, but fear stopped her again. What if this was a mistake? What if he changed his mind later? Her past told her not to trust. The human seemed to understand her silence. "I will not force you," he said calmly, "but you do not have to stay in the cold." Lyra looked at her shaking hands. Then slowly, very slowly, she nodded. The human did not smile widely, but there was a quiet warmth in his eyes. "Come," he said. He did not grab her hand. He simply began to walk slowly. Lyra hesitated for a moment, then stood up, her legs weak. She followed him, keeping some distance. The city looked different at night. Shops were closed, lights were dim. After a short walk, they reached a small shelter. It was simple, not rich, but safe. The human opened the door and stepped inside. Warm air touched Lyra's face. She stopped at the entrance, not used to such comfort. "It is okay," the human said. "You can come in." Lyra stepped inside slowly. Her body relaxed just a little. The human gave her a blanket. She held it tightly, as if it might disappear. Then he placed more food on the table, better than before, warm and fresh. Lyra stared at it. Her eyes filled with quiet shock. "For me?" she asked softly. "Yes," the human replied. She sat down slowly and began to eat. This time, she did not rush as much. The warmth, the silence, the safety, it all felt unreal. After some time, she looked up at him. "Why are you doing this?" she asked again, her voice still unsure. The human sat across from her. "Because you needed help," he said simply. Lyra shook her head slightly. "That is not enough," she said. The human watched her quietly. "Then tell me," he said. "Why do you think no one helps you?" Lyra froze. Her hands stopped moving. She looked down again. "I am weak," she said. "They all say that." The human did not respond right away. He waited. "There were tests," Lyra continued slowly. "They checked my strength, my ability." Her voice became softer. "I always failed." Silence filled the room. "But," she added, her voice shaking, "there is something else." The human leaned slightly forward, listening carefully. Lyra closed her eyes for a moment, as if remembering something painful. "I can feel things," she said. The human's expression changed slightly. "What do you mean?" he asked gently. Lyra opened her eyes again. "They feel pain." "And I feel it too," she whispered. The human stayed silent. "When someone is hurt, I can take it away," she continued. "But then it comes to me." Her hands trembled again. "I become tired, weak, hungry." The room became very quiet. "They were afraid," Lyra said. "They said I was strange, dangerous." A tear rolled down her cheek. So they left me. The human looked at her, understanding slowly forming in his eyes. She was not weak, she was carrying the pain of others. The human took a deep breath. You are not weak, he said quietly. Lyra looked at him in shock. For the first time someone said something different. Lyra stared at the human, her eyes wide with disbelief. You are not weak. His words echoed in her mind. She had heard many things in her life, but never those words. Her hands trembled slightly as she held the blanket closer. What do you mean? She asked softly. The human leaned back a little, his voice calm. You were helping others, even when it hurt you, he said. That is not weakness. Lyra looked down again, confused. No. They said it was wrong, she whispered. They were afraid, the human replied. Sometimes people fear what they do not understand. Lyra stayed silent. Her thoughts were heavy. For a moment, the small room felt peaceful, warm, and quiet. But that peace did not last long. A loud sound suddenly came from outside. Heavy footsteps, many of them. Lyra's body froze instantly. Her eyes filled with fear again. They found me, she whispered. The human stood up quickly, his calm expression turned serious. Another loud knock hit the door, stronger this time. Open the door. A deep voice ordered from outside. Lyra's breathing became fast and uneven. Her hands gripped the blanket tightly. They will take me, she said, her voice breaking. The human looked at her. Stay behind me, he said firmly. Lyra shook her head quickly. No. You should not get involved, she said. You will get in trouble. The human did not respond to that. He simply walked toward the door. The knocking came again, louder than before. Open it now, the voice demanded. The human slowly opened the door. 3 tall figures stood outside, not normal guards this time. Their uniforms were dark and sharp, their eyes cold and focused. They stepped inside without waiting for permission. Their gaze quickly found Lyra. There she is, one of them said. Lyra stepped back, her body shaking. Fear filled her eyes. The human moved slightly in front of her, blocking their path. What do you want? He asked calmly. One of the figures looked at him. You are interfering, he said. She is under our authority, another added. She must come with us. Lyra's heart pounded loudly. She knew what that meant. No. She whispered, her voice barely audible. The human did not move. Why? He asked. The figures exchanged a glance. She has a rare condition, one of them said. She must be studied. Lyra's eyes filled with tears. She had heard those words before. Studied, it never meant anything good. The human's expression became more serious. She is not an object, he said. She is not your decision to make, one replied sharply. The tension in the room grew heavy. The air felt tight and cold again. Lyra stepped back further. Her body pressed against the wall. She looked at the human. Fear and sadness filled her face. You will leave me too, she said softly. The words were quiet, but they carried years of pain. The human turned his head slightly toward her. His eyes softened for a moment. Then he looked back at the figures in front of him. No, he said firmly. The word was simple, but strong. The figures frowned. This is not your matter, one said. Step aside. The human stood his ground. I am not moving, he replied. Silence filled the room again. But this time, it was tense and heavy. The figures took a step forward, trying to push past him, but the human did not step back. You are making this difficult, one of them said coldly. Then leave, the human answered. For a moment, it seemed like things would turn violent. Lyra closed her eyes tightly, her body shaking. She expected everything to fall apart again, but then something unexpected happened. Voices began to rise outside. Curious people had gathered, watching the situation. Why are they taking her? Someone asked. She is just a child, another voice said. The figures paused, their attention shifting for a moment. The human noticed this. You do not want attention, he said quietly. The figures looked at each other again. Uncertainty appeared in their eyes. Finally, one of them spoke. This is not over, he said. They slowly stepped back, moving toward the door. "But we will return," he added. Then they left. The door closed behind them. Silence filled the room once again. Lyra slowly opened her eyes, her breathing still unsteady. "They left?" she asked softly. The human turned back to her. "Yes," he said. Lyra looked at him. Her eyes filled with confusion and emotion. "You did not leave," she said. The human shook his head slightly. "No," he replied. "Not this time." Tears rolled down Lyra's cheeks again. But this time, they were not only from fear. The room stayed silent after the figures left. Only the soft sound of Lyra's breathing could be heard. She was still shaking. Her small hands held the blanket tightly. "They will come back," she whispered, her voice full of fear. The human stood near the door for a moment, listening carefully to the outside. Then he closed the door properly and turned toward her. "Yes," he said honestly. "They will." Lyra lowered her head. "I knew it," she said softly. Her hope began to fade again, like it always did. "They always come back," she added, "and they always take what they want." The human walked closer and sat in front of her again. "But that does not mean we give up," he said. Lyra looked at him, confused. "We?" she repeated. The human nodded slightly. "Yes, we." Lyra's eyes widened a little. No one had ever included her like that before. "You are not alone anymore," he said calmly. Lyra stayed quiet. Her heart felt heavy and light at the same time again. "But why?" she asked, her voice still unsure. The human thought for a moment, then spoke slowly. "Because someone should have helped you a long time ago," he said. "And now I am here." Lyra looked down at her hands. She did not know how to respond. The idea of someone staying. It felt strange. "What if they are stronger than you?" she asked quietly. The human gave a small smile. "Then I will still stand," he replied. "What if they take me anyway?" she asked, her voice trembling again. The human looked directly at her. "Then I will follow," he said. Lyra's breath caught for a moment. His words felt too strong. "Why would you do that?" she asked, her voice almost breaking. The human did not look away. "Because you matter," he said simply. Silence filled the room again. But this silence felt different. Lyra felt something growing inside her chest, a small warmth slowly spreading. She was not used to it, but she did not want it to go away. After a moment, she spoke again. "I do not understand humans," she said softly. The human let out a quiet breath. "Sometimes we do not understand ourselves either," he replied. That made Lyra pause for the first time. She felt a small, weak smile on her face. It was not strong, but it was real. The human noticed it, but he did not say anything. Outside, the wind had become calmer, the night slowly moving forward. "What will we do now?" Lyra asked. The human leaned back slightly, thinking. "We stay careful," he said, "and we stay ready." Lyra nodded slowly, even though she was still scared. Time passed quietly. The human brought her more water and made sure she stayed warm. Lyra watched him carefully, still not fully trusting, but no longer completely afraid. After a while, she spoke again. "Do you have a name?" she asked. The human looked at her, slightly surprised, then gave a small smile. "Yes," he said. "My name is Aaron." Lyra repeated it softly. Aaron. The name felt easy to say, and somehow safe. Aaron nodded. "That is me." Lyra looked at him for a moment, then lowered her gaze again. "Aaron?" she said slowly. "Thank you." Aaron did not respond with big words. He simply nodded. The quiet understanding between them grew stronger. After some time, Lyra's eyes became heavy, her body finally feeling the weight of everything. "You can rest," Aaron said gently. Lyra hesitated. "What if they come back while I sleep?" she asked. Aaron stood up and moved closer to the door again. "I will be here," he said. "You will not leave?" she asked. Aaron shook his head. "No," he replied. Lyra looked at him for a few seconds, then slowly lay down, still holding The blanket. Her eyes remained open at first. Watching him carefully, Aaron stayed near the door. Quiet and alert, minutes passed. Slowly, Lyra's eyes began to close for the first time in a long time. She allowed herself to rest. Her breathing became calm. Aaron glanced back at her, making sure she was safe. The small room felt peaceful again, but outside, the world had not forgotten her. And somewhere in the distance, plans were already being made. The morning came slowly. Soft light entered the small shelter. The cold night was gone, but its memory remained. Lyra opened her eyes quietly. For a moment, she did not move. She was not on the cold street. She was not alone. She was safe. Her fingers tightened slightly on the blanket, as if checking if it was real. Then she slowly sat up, her eyes searching the room. Aaron was still there, standing near the door. Watching outside, he had not left. Lyra looked at him in silence. A strange feeling filled her chest again, relief. "You stayed," she whispered. Aaron turned his head and looked at her. "I said I would," he replied simply. Lyra lowered her gaze. She was not used to promises being kept. Outside, soft voices could be heard. People were gathering again. Curiosity had spread. During the night, "Why are they here?" Lyra asked quietly. Aaron listened for a moment. "Because they saw what happened," he said. "And now they are wondering." Lyra felt nervous again. What if they are like the others? She asked. Aaron did not answer right away. "We will see," he said calmly. A gentle knock came on the door, not loud, not aggressive. Lyra's body tensed for a moment. Fear still lived inside her. Aaron opened the door slowly. A few aliens stood outside. Their expressions were not cold this time. They looked unsure, even a little ashamed. "We heard what happened," one of them said. His voice was not harsh. Another stepped forward slightly. "She is the one, right?" Aaron did not move aside completely. He stayed partly in front of Lyra. "Yes," he said. The aliens looked at Lyra, but this time, their eyes were different. No disgust, no anger, only questions. Lyra stayed behind Aaron, her hands gripping the blanket. "Again, she helped others?" one of them asked. Aaron nodded. "Yes," he said. "She carried pain that was not hers." The group became quiet. Some looked down, as if thinking deeply. "We did not know," another said softly. Lyra's eyes widened slightly. Those words felt new, not rejection, not blame, just realization. One of them took a small step closer. "Is she okay?" he asked. Aaron looked back at Lyra for a moment, then answered, "She will be." Lyra slowly looked out from behind him. Her eyes met theirs for a brief second. They did not turn away. That alone felt different. The silence stayed for a few moments. Then the group slowly stepped back. "We will not disturb you," one said. "But we will remember this." They turned and walked away. Not with pride, but with quiet thought. The street slowly became empty again. Lyra stepped forward slightly, still unsure. "They did not shout," she said softly. Aaron nodded. "Sometimes people need time to understand," he replied. Lyra looked down at her hands. Then slowly, she took a step closer to him. Her movements were careful, like she was still afraid everything might disappear. "Aaron," she said quietly. He looked at her. "Yes?" She hesitated for a moment, then gently reached out. Her small hand touched his sleeve. It was a simple action, but full of meaning. "I am still scared," she admitted. Aaron gave a small nod. "That is okay," he said. Lyra looked up at him. "But I am not alone," she added softly. Aaron did not say anything for a moment, but his eyes showed understanding. "No," he said finally, "you are not." The sunlight grew stronger, filling the small shelter with warmth. For the first time, the world did not feel so cold to Lyra. She stepped closer and stood beside Aaron, not behind him, side by side. Her eyes looked forward, not down. The past was still there. The pain was not gone, but something had changed. She was no longer invisible. She was no longer unwanted. And as she stood there, holding on to the small piece of hope she had found, A quiet truth settled in her heart. For the first time in her life, someone stayed.